It's great seeing everyone here today. My name is Komysha Hassan. I'm a senior, finally, at UCF, dual majoring in political science, pre-law, and writing and rhetoric, with a minor in economics and a certificate in teaching English as a foreign language. I was first published in Stylus in the fall 2014 issue, and as a result of that research, my research was accepted at a national conference in the field that spring. Ever since then, I have been very involved with Stylus, with Night's Right Showcase, which you guys are in now, and the composition program generally, even though I am or was political science major, and I still am. As you will see in a moment, everyone on this panel has different interests and fields, but we all have an interest in communicating our work to others and articulating ourselves effectively, and that's what writing does. And publication, in this case, gives you the chance to share in this conversation, the scholarly conversation, and to impact others and do work in the world. And that's what we would love to share with you today, the experience that we've had doing this, so that you may be on this stage sometime very soon, maybe next semester, we can see you all. So without further ado, let me go ahead and introduce this stellar panel we have today, starting with Madeline Halvey. She is a senior in the Burnett Honors College at the University of Central Florida. She's a double major in interdisciplinary studies and writing and rhetoric with a minor in cognitive studies, or cognitive sciences, sorry. That's apparently not something I'm familiar with. Madeline is a tutor at the University Writing Center, yay, and also teaches ballet and tap dance. In her free time, she loves to garden and watch The Office. She plans to attend graduate school where she will study environmental sustainability, and she aspires to work with the United Nations or an NGO. Her paper, Simple Forms of Dance and Movement Literacy, was published in the spring 2015, we're not that old, issue of Stylus. And you can check it out along with everyone else's paper online. To her right is Priscilla Samayoa. Priscilla was born in Guatemala and moved to Florida in August of 2015. She's currently a sophomore at UCF and is pursuing a bachelor's degree in mechanical engineering. She has been on the Dean's List and President's List during her freshman and sophomore years. In her free time, she enjoys playing tennis and working on projects for the Society of Hispanic Professional Engineers and the American Institute of Aeronautics and Astronautics Club at UCF. After graduating, she hopes to work in the aeronautical or space exploration fields. Priscilla is one of the first people to have published in back-to-back Stylus issues. Her paper is Writing Processes of Musical Theater Writers, How They Create a Storyline, Compose Songs, and Connect Them to Form a Musical, and The Extent of Influence That Genre Conventions Have on TED Talks were published in the spring and fall 2017 issues of Stylus. To Priscilla's left, I keep saying right, what's wrong with me? Sorry, you guys. To Priscilla's left is Amber Steward. She is a senior at UCF studying communications with a dance minor and a certificate in teaching English as a foreign language. She's currently a member of the Knights and Damsels Elite Dance Company and a student choreographer for the UCF dance program. She was most recently seen on stage for Theater UCF's Dream Roles Concert 2017, Orlando International Fashion Week, and UCF's Dance 10 Showcase. After graduation, Amber hopes to dance professionally. Her paper was Learning to Loosen the Ties and was published in the fall 2016 issue of Stylus. Last but certainly not least is Shravan Yandra. He was born in Hyderabad, India, and moved to the United States in the fall of 2015. He is currently a junior at UCF and is majoring in computer engineering. He also plans to pursue a minor in mathematics. Besides his progress in academics, he's also a member of Volunteer UCF and loves volunteering. Although he was not interested in writing, His composition one class ignited the interest for writing inside him, and now he has developed an interest in reading research articles and documentaries related to various fields of study. Shravan's paper, Note-Taking Involving Native and Modern Languages, a detailed analysis of my code meshing, was published in the 2016 issue of Stylus. And again, you can find all of these online at the Stylus website. Just Google it. So I kind of wanted to start off asking a general question. I would love everyone's feedback on this so we can kind of share. And I think the best question is, how did you guys discover what you wanted to write about or research? Anyone can take this.
Okay.
Yes, please go ahead, Priscilla.
So I wrote 2 papers. The first paper, I had no idea what I wanted to write about. I was a freshman and I was like, I don't write. I'm an engineering major. There's no way. So I was, I don't know, researching engineering related topics, but I wasn't really feeling it because I didn't really know much about engineering as a freshman. I was like, oh, this is just my introduction to engineering. I have no idea. So one day, Professor Lambert was talking about different sources that we could use to write our paper. And she talked about Lin-Manuel Miranda's Twitter, and he's actually the writer of the musical Hamilton. And I was totally obsessed with Hamilton. So from there, I just was like, okay, so a musical theater piece is a form of writing. So how do people start and write such a complex piece, and what processes do they go through? And yeah, that's how I came up with it. It wasn't really planned, it just kind of happened. And it's something that I loved, so I was obsessed with Hamilton. So I was like super eager to investigate and do research about it. So yeah.
Wow, see, you're a major in engineering and you're covering theater, so that's the power of writing. Anyone else want to share? How did you discover what you wanted to write about or research?
Well, even I think I have the similar experience as hers because my major is engineering as well. The best motivation that I had was my professor, Dr. Rosen. He was the one who actually motivated me to, choose a topic and think about it in detail. Although I started writing as a purpose of completing it, as that's like a general education for me, but then later I was really interested in that particular topic, and how detailedly I wrote was really helpful in my major as well. So I started doing that.
Cool, wonderful.
Mine was pretty straightforward. It was ENC 1101, and it was just our prompt about our writing process. And so I didn't have much leeway there, but we were given a lot of different examples from different writers and stuff from our professor, and a couple of them actually were pretty interesting, which it's not an interesting topic, it's just writing about your writing process. So it was really interesting to me how people were able to make it so engaging and something that I wanted to read. And one that really inspired me, honestly, to try harder with this particular paper was Thomas Osborne, who was actually a student at UCF, and he was published, I later found out he was published in Stylus, but he was also in our textbook. And to me that was really cool because one of my assignments in class at UCF was to read this paper in our textbook, and it was from a student who'd also like lived in these dorms, walked to this campus. So for me, that made it really real, and that made it really possible. So I remember I was really inspired, and I was just like, okay, if this kid could write this paper, and it doesn't sound like a paper at all, it's very narrative, it's really engaging, it's honestly really funny. And I was like, okay, if this kid can write this paper from my campus where I'm sitting, then like, I could also make something interesting maybe. And that's what kind of inspired me to not just answer the prompt, but kind of make it a story and kind of make it funny as well.
Oh, that's really cool. And by the way, that's true. You could get published in the textbook. So, Maddie, you want to share?
Yeah, so I didn't really understand what kind of research we were even doing when I took ENC 1102. I was like, okay, we're just here to do like a project. And so we were kind of just like throwing out ideas about ways that we read and write in life that like are not academic. And I had mentioned that in my dance classes, we actually start to write notes, and people thought that was weird. And it wasn't weird to me because it just seemed so natural. Like, that's just what we do in dance. And that kind of like initiated me to like think about like how is that different from what other people expect of dance classes to be. And so that's where I came up with the idea of like, oh, I'm gonna like look at this weird part of dance where we're actually writing instead of dancing. So yeah.
Wow, beautiful. So that, all of the different like thought processes that you had approaching this really makes me wonder, were there any hurdles or obstacles that you went through because, sitting up here, it feels like, whoa, we were these perfect writers, but that's really not the case. It's just all trial and error and very recursive process. And so did any of you kind of encounter those obstacles and challenges you want to share with the group?
Well, I faced a lot of challenges because I was an international student when I came here. Although English was my first language in my country, but still writing wasn't given that importance as it is given in States. So pretty much writing was completely new, and especially I was used to the British English, which is quite different from the American English. So it took a while getting used to the American English, and the most important thing for my paper was like connecting ideas of my research with the textual content. I mean, it took me like a week or so of continuous struggle to think about how do I link it, and I even visited Writing Center, which was one of the best resources, I would say, and talked to professors, talked to my friends, and then came to a conclusion about how do I connect it. But I thought like that was the most challenging part for me. So
you brought in a lot of voices on your paper to kind of give you feedback and give you that support. And that's something we try to encourage a lot of students, because I had this experience as well. I wasn't really sure where I should go with my paper, etc. But talking to professors and going to the Writing Center and eventually becoming a part of the Writing Center definitely did have a big impact, I think, on it. Share, Priscilla?
I was, especially for my second paper for ENC 1102, I was completely clueless of how to start, because coming out of 1101, you wrote a paper, right? But it's not really that structured. But then you go into 1102 and you have to write a research paper that looks and feels really formal and scary. And for me, I'm one of those people that it's like, if you ask me how did you write this, I just say like I sat down and typed on my computer. So I was really just not happy with the format that you had to do it, because it just looked really hard and structured. And so I had several moments where I was like, I can't do this, I don't know what I'm doing. I think there was even one time where I walked into Professor Lambert's office and I was just like, I have no idea what I'm doing here. Like with this research, I know what I want to talk about, but I don't know how to put it in words so that it'll fit into a research paper. And that's something that going to actually the office hours of my professor really helped a lot, because they really help you kind of organize everything together and put it in some sort of organization, so that you can like go from one place to another and make sense of what you're doing and still make it like professional and research.
Yeah, I think that's a struggle that a lot of us have. We have like great ideas, we don't know how to kind of put it into a format and make it communicable and easy to share. And so that's another thing about going through this writing process. Anything you want to share, Maddie?
Yeah, when I was doing research, I couldn't find anything about dance and writing, and I felt very lost, because I was like, am I really the only one that's like searching this kind of things. So I had to really broaden my research topics, and it turns out like there were other scholars talking about the thing, but they were doing it in a very different way than what like I had narrowed my research down to. So I guess my hurdle was just like kind of realizing I have to look beyond just like this one specific topic, and I had to like think about how other topics like influence mine and inform my research.
So you kind of looked at the conversation that's beyond a little bit your
Yeah,
field.
exactly.
Cool. Awesome. I wanted to ask the question, because we all published in Stylus, what led you to try to get published? I might start with you, Priscilla, because you've been published twice. But I don't want to put you on the spot, but what led you to try? Were you like aiming towards that, or how did that process happen for you?
No, I was not aiming towards that. I just wrote my paper for 1101, and like I said, I loved the topic, so I gave it my all. I was really excited about it. I was really proud of the end product. I mean, yeah, that I wrote.
A lot of other people agree with you.
So Professor Lambert just like approached me, and she was like, hey, there's this journal that you can get published in, and I encourage you to submit your work. And honestly, I was really happy with my piece. I was like, why not? The worst that can happen is just they say no. And that's not even bad, because you like tried, you know what I mean? So I just was like, okay, let's do this. And I submitted it, and then you have to edit it, and it's like a process, but it was a lot of fun, and it's really rewarding at the end. You feel really proud of yourself. And then for the second one, I just knew already the process, so I was like, yeah, why not? Let's do it again. So yeah, that's basically it.
Shravan, you mentioned earlier that you didn't intend, like it was just a paper that you had to do for your general requirements. How did you get to the part where you got published?
Well, even I wasn't expecting that, it would go for publishing or something. I mean, Professor did mention that Stylus is a place where you can publish and stuff, but I never aimed for that. But, as she said, I just gave my best shot, and I tried my best. I did my research and tried to make an excellent paper from my side, so that I could just get up, the best thing possible. And suddenly, like, it was during the break from summer and fall semester starting. So the break between then was like, I got an email from Dr. Rosen, and he was like, would you like to publish your research in Stylus? And I was like, I couldn't understand what Stylus was initially, because I completely forgot that what it was. So I actually Googled it, and then I came to know that, oh, okay. So yeah, so I just remembered what he said in our class, and then I came to a conclusion that, yeah, I would love to work with that. And yeah, it was like a lot of work even after the class ended, because in fall I used to go and we used to edit some things and stuff like that. So
yeah, it is a process, definitely. I know, Maddie, you were talking earlier about how you were one of the few ones that were talking about this topic. Did that kind of push you to want to share your research, or what was your approach to this?
Yeah, I mean, like Shravan, I didn't really know what Stylus was. Like, I had kind of forgotten about my paper after I finished it.
That happens a lot, apparently.
And yeah, my professor, Dr. Rosen, was like, hey, I really think you should go for this. If you edit your paper a little bit, we can submit it to Stylus. And yeah, I thought it would be neat. It would be something that people might want to read, because it was different than what had been in the literature so far.
Absolutely. And Amber, you mentioned that you saw the student example published in the textbook. Did that kind of give you a little competitive spirit to wanting to make this work too?
Honestly, at that point, I still didn't know that he was published in Stylus as well. I thought he was just a UCF student in the textbook. And then later, as I was just like definitely like deep into this, I was like, what am I doing? And then I like researched Stylus, and I found his name, and I was like, no way. But definitely, like, I feel like I just stumbled blindly through this process initially, because I hadn't heard of it before. If I had, I didn't pay attention, and I honestly just didn't really know. It was something where my professor, the same thing as them, just kind of pulled me aside after class one day, and it was just like, hey, I think this is, kind of a good paper, would you consider submitting it for stylus? And I was like, sure, teachers don't normally tell me that, sure. And I remember him even saying yeah, just edit it up a little bit, and then, you can just email it to this email. And I remember that was just I just spent a lot of work on this paper already, edit it more, okay. And if you guys read my paper, it's about procrastination. And so I remember after hearing about having to edit it even more, I was like, okay, yeah, I'll get to it. And honestly, I waited a couple months, and then halfway through summer break, I was off in the mountains, just living a life. And I remember I remembered about it, and I was like, oh yeah, my teacher told me about this. Maybe I should give it a shot. Let's try this. Yeah, and so I edited it a little bit, and I sent it back, and I was like, sorry, is it too late now? And he was like, no, I'll turn it in, I'll see if they still take it. And so I remember just the whole process was just very they kept saying oh yeah, they actually liked it. Oh yeah, we actually are considering publishing it, and just each step was just shocking, until eventually I was like, okay, I'm gonna look this up, because this seems a little more legit than I initially thought.
This really segues well into the question of what has publishing meant to you, because you weren't expecting that. It was kind of very surprising, and that really applicable to all of you, so I'd love all of you to share on that as well.
Honestly, for me, it's meant so much, and it sounds really cheesy, but I've kind of realized going through the process how much it's meant to me, because I keep coming back, and I keep, they just suggested after I was published, oh, would you want to help out and, maybe look at some future papers or edit some future papers? And I kept saying yes. And kind of in reflecting back on that, I would ask myself, why do I want to put in this extra work, and why do I keep wanting, genuinely wanting to read 40 papers and grade them individually? And I just kind of realized, honestly, it did mean a lot to me, because I dance mostly. I'm not normally acknowledged for academic things. I'm not normally the student that sits in the front of the classroom or really, gets a move on assignments and stuff. I do procrastinate, and I am not the best student always. And so to be acknowledged by a professor, just to have your student looked at, or your work looked at by other people, and to be told you're published. And then I've had professors tell me that they want to show my paper in their classes, and that means something. That's honestly mind-blowing, because I'm not normally a really academic, hardworking person, and towards that stuff I work hard.
Absolutely.
But, so it's really cool. It makes me think that I can do more than just dance or artsy things.
That's what I love about this, and about the stylist experience, about writing in general, is that it gives you that kind of window, and people feel like it's always literature focused or literary, but it's really about communicating yourself and being able to articulate your own identity through writing. I'm not going to force anyone to go next, but please share, what does publishing mean to you?
So this publishing part was one of my best parts of writing, I would say, because although there was a lot of struggles and difficulties before producing the best piece for publishing, I was that publishing part, it gave me a lot of energy, to try myself, to put myself completely out for my other writing classes. And it also encouraged me to read more articles, research papers, and get to know more professors through publishing. And it actually created a different kind of environment for me, where I gained a lot of knowledge in terms of how literacy worked, and even to know more about how the research actually worked in the industry. So pretty much this was actually helpful for my major, because I learned how to write research articles and how to proceed in a stepwise for a research. So that was pretty
cool. Awesome. Yes, Priscilla?
Okay, so for me, it was all about breaking the norm kind of thing, because everybody knows that, like, stereotype that engineers cannot write. And being published for me meant that that's not true. I can write. So it just makes you feel good about like what you can do. It makes you feel confident. And now I am going into like higher level classes in engineering where I might have to write reports or even other research studies.
That's true.
I at least will like, I know that I can do it, and I know that I have the basics or more than the basics to succeed in them. And I know now that I can write, and I'm an engineer, so yeah.
Yay. Maddie?
Yeah, getting published was like really inspirational to me. It actually motivated me to take on another major in writing because I felt like I was so lost in the beginning of this course, and then now it like resulted in something that I never thought I could do. So it was just like, I can actually do this, and I like writing. And then more than that, like the writing major actually helped me get in with the writing center. So I'm a tutor there, and that gives me credibility now. I can say like, I was in your shoes and I've been published, and like I was just as lost as you may be now. So this is something that like we can do together.
So when you guys come to publish your papers, just visit the writing center. Basically, that's the moral of the story. I think so. As we wrap up, any advice that you guys would like to offer a student who's taking a writing class right now in this process? All of you obviously went through it in different ways, through different experiences, and everybody else is going to have different experiences. But what would be something that you guys would think is a good takeaway?
So I would advise students to like take many opinions as possible in writing, because sometimes we tend to stick towards one direction of writing and we tend to forget the others. So sometimes taking help from University Writing Center, or asking your professors about opinions, or asking your friends. And I mean, it's just opinions, so you can choose whatever you want and keep the best in your paper. And I think opinions are really helpful when you are lost, or when you're almost like done with your paper, because they tend to improve your paper to the best possible piece.
Absolutely.
I would say find something in the prompt to motivate you. Like find a way to make it interesting, because a lot of times, almost always, the prompts are not the most exciting things. I mean, my paper was literally about my writing process. But I think like if you just find something in there to like motivate you to make it interesting, you can make it interesting. Like you don't have to just answer the prompt. You can kind of make a story out of it, which is a little bit what I did. Because I remember just looking at the prompt, I was just like, okay, I don't really care about this, but just like how is my writing process? And for me, I was just like, honestly, I'm not that great. I'm really unorganized. I wait till the last second. And so that's kind of what my paper became about. So it doesn't have to be like what you think the professor wants it to be. It doesn't have to be like, well, I start with this and then I do this. For me, I was like, listen, my room is really clean right now, and I know the only reason it's clean right now is because I'm procrastinating. I've gone great lengths to organize everything, do all my homework assignments ahead of time. Like, I kind of was just really real about it, and I found a way to kind of make it sarcastic, which is normally how I think about writing assignments, not necessarily in the most.
And those are probably the most
pleasant way.
helpful pieces as well, because in like this journal we try to give people an idea like of what kind of struggles that you guys go through, and you guys can read about that and see that kind of thing. And so that's actually probably the most helpful kind of writing for other students that are similar situated. Priscilla?
I guess my piece of advice, other than write about what you love and really be passionate about it, is whenever you have moments where you have no idea what you're doing or you don't know what to do, because I know I had a lot of those, and I know that you probably do have a lot of those too, go to your professor's office and talk to them, even if it's just to say, I don't know what I'm doing, or I have no idea what this is, I don't know how to relate this to this other thing. Anything, just go, because they're really helpful, and they can help you organize yourselves and make something that's really, really good.
Sorry about that. I was about to say something and I lost it, so go ahead, Maddie.
My piece of advice would be, besides writing about something that you're passionate about, don't be afraid to put yourself in your writing. So writing's a very personal thing, and the things that we're talking about, we're passionate about, so we're a part of it. And just don't be afraid to talk about that passion in your writing.
Beautifully said. Okay. I kind of wanted to ask one more question, but I do want to open it up for you guys to start having a conversation as well. And just very quickly, anyone who wants to continue to do writing in their major is thinking about publishing again or pursuing that in any way? It's fine if nobody wants to do this.
I mean, I don't know yet. Probably.
Yeah, you're still early.
Now that I know that I can do this, then I might go for it at some point where I have higher level classes and I have and I find my passion on what I want to do, and I research it and I write about it, and maybe I publish something new. But yeah, I mean, I would be totally open to that. I don't know yet. I'm probably gonna do it, but I don't know yet what I'm gonna do it with. But yeah.
Yeah, you guys still have time in your majors and also UCF. So.
I'm actually working on an independent study now, so I didn't know that was something that you could do, but I just learned about it and I'm doing it. Basically, it's you kind of take on your own research, and it's really similar to the research you do in 1102. And so I'm working on research in environmental politics, and hopefully it'll be at a conference in the summer. But
oh wow, congratulations. I'm going to add my little piece to this. So I basically, after being published in Stylus, I kind of moved this on to my other major, which was political science at the time, and I started doing an honors in the major thesis, and I was able to complete that and successfully defend it. And that a lot of this, I think, is owed to the fact that I felt like what I did and said mattered, even at this early stage in my academic progress. And that's exactly the kind of message that we're trying to pass through as well. Each of us has different interests, and maybe we started this in different places, maybe weren't really interested in it or didn't think it mattered, but we found our voices and really wanted to share that with everybody. And we saw how we could impact others through our writing. And so that's kind of the message that I think all of us are trying to share as well today. We're going to stop talking because we want to hear from you guys. And so we're opening the floor for questions, and please feel free to share.
Don't be shy.
I think there was two, but now there's one. I think I have the other microphone, but there's a microphone there, so anybody who wants to go ahead.
How long did it take us to decide that that's the topic that we wanted to write about, after the assignment? Oh, well, mine I feel like is the most straightforward out of all of these. I was given a couple weeks to write my paper. Again, I did wait till closer to the due date, but I did give myself more time. So I don't know, I think the weekend before, I really was just okay, I do think I want to spend more time on this particular paper. So I just kind of locked myself in my room and yeah.
So you procrastinated about the paper about procrastination.
Yeah, and that's how
very
I was
meta,
inspired to write about procrastination. But yeah.
Anyone else? Okay.
In my experience, the paper, it took me, for me as well, I took it during the summer, so even I had just 2 weeks to complete the assignment. although the editing was like in the fall, but before the editing, for the assignment's sake, I had to start it. So I was really tense because I heard like 1101 was like really tough English, because a lot of my friends even told me the same. So I started on day one, actually, and I tried my best to complete it within the first week so that I can actually revise the paper for the second week. But it ended up ending at like 1.5 weeks or something. But the last 2 days I ended up revising with University Writing Center and some of my other friends and professor, of course. So that was my part.
Cool. You guys have any?
I have a question.
Yeah,
Here. I
go
know I
ahead.
just came out of nowhere, right? So all of you are now published authors out there, and I just wondered if any of you had any specific literacy sponsors that helped you get to where you are now, that you'd like to share, or anybody that really helped you get to where you are now in terms of your publishing.
Great question, actually.
Thank you.
Anyone want to start? I can start if you guys want. For me personally, I think honestly it was the professor, like my professor in 1101, Dr. Stefan Gunzel. He was very encouraging, and even though I'm not too bad of a writer, like I never thought of myself as a terrible writer, but I never thought I could like get an A on a paper, like I wasn't thinking that way. And so he kind of helped me through the process of it, and seeing that like the first draft is not very high stakes, like I need to keep going back and forth on it and working to develop my paper in a recursive way. And so that really helped me see that I didn't need to be like super perfect the first time and put a lot of pressure on me. I would say that he really was a big inspiration for me, as well as Professor Steward, Jacob Steward, who was my professor in 1102, and he's the one who kind of really pushed for me to publish the paper. And because I cared about the research, I kind of went far with it, and I took it to a national conference, and I'm still sort of talking about it until now. And so, yeah, so it does have a lot of traction.
For me, one of my literacy sponsors was a teacher I had in high school, and he was really neat because he didn't care about our grammar, so he always was trying to help us expand like the content of our writing and like our ideas and how we're a part of our writing. And I think that was really what helped when I was writing this research paper now. And Dr. Rosen also really encouraged me, and he helped me like figure out exactly what I wanted to write about. And even though it like kind of changed throughout my writing, there was always like the main idea that he had helped me establish.
Cool. Anyone else want to respond to the question? Okay, cool.
Could I say another author?
Yeah.
Because I know I already mentioned Thomas Osborne, but another essay that I've read was Anne Lamott's Shitty First Drafts. I don't know if you guys have had to read that in class yet, but I had to read it in college, and I had actually already remembered reading it in high school as well, which normally I don't remember all the papers that we read. And that one actually did influence my writing process and style. I mean, it was also about a writing process, but it was cool because her whole approach is about just like writing as much as you can at the top of your head. Like, don't worry about sentence structure or anything. And so I remember that essay in general has kind of changed my idea about how I go about writing. I just kind of like throw everything up on the page and then go back and organize it. And I don't know, that's really helped me. I don't know if that counts as a literary sponsor or not.
Yeah, I think it does. We have a couple more minutes. I'd love to hear from you guys if you want to share something or ask a question.
Yeah, if you guys have questions, we'll bring the mic to you. You don't have to come up here, so.
So I think like one of the most important things for writing, at least with me, is like making sure your arguments are like contextual with what you're writing your paper about. So I was gonna say, how easy is it for you guys to like, because like rhetorical situation kind of tells you which appeal you should use. Like if you're an engineer, you might want to use facts or something like statistics. But like better papers I know kind of use more like kind of an overall appeal with different techniques to make your argument more persuasive. So I was wondering how you guys go about like mixing all these different techniques.
Awesome, great question. Thank you. I'm going to put you on the spot, Shravan. Do you want to share something on that? Sorry?
I'll go next.
Okay. I mean, personally, I see, and that's a really good point that you make, that we always think about, like, say, engineering, it's always linear and it's data, etc. But I think it really matters what the audience is for your paper, and that kind of tells you where you want to be and how you argue, because really the argument is articulation of like your idea, and you want the audience to believe it or to care about it or to persuade them to do something with it. And in many contexts, that's more of a creative, argument, and more of an emotional or an ethos or pathos kind of, rather than logic. But it's always like combined. So we talk about them very, as three separate things. But whenever you're making an argument, you often have to hit a lot of things in that. And so, for me, it's really just focusing on the audience and then kind of moving from that and seeing like, what do I want my paper to do, and working back from that. And I think that's kind of my approach to it. Everybody agrees. I think we have like another 2 minutes. Am I still on time? Okay. I would love to hear any other questions you guys have. Because I'm sure you're in like 11:01 or 2.
So how did you guys like go about like conducting like the research that you did? Like one of like the primary methods that you used? Because I know that some of you mentioned that you were like directly involved with what you writing, like with the dance and like the musical theater and stuff like that. But like what primary methods did you go into when like getting the information that you needed for your writing?
Okay, so that was a challenge for me because in both my papers, I wasn't really involved with the community that actually produces the writing. But in my freshman year in my dorm, there was this girl that was majoring in theater. So my first paper was about musical theater writers. So I interviewed her to get her perspective on how a play or a musical theater piece is written and how actors interpret it. So it's not like you really have to know people that are directly making the writing. You can also like ask people who are involved interpreting the writing or reading the writing, acting out the writing. And then for the TED Talks, I do not know anybody that has given a TED Talk. So I used the actual TED Talks as primary sources because they're the thing, right? And I used that, and I used interviews with the TED Talk people and with Chris Anderson, I think. He's the actual founder of the TED Talks. So there were interviews done by other people to him. So I use that as a primary source because it's him talking. It's not another person interpreting what he's saying. So you can also use videos and stuff like that.
Yeah, that's very true. Yeah.
I was kind of lucky because I was already taking dance classes when I did my research. So my research kind of became in ethnography. But I did interview some of the teachers that I had for dance, and that kind of became a part of it. But it was more like I had these dance classes available to me, so I was accessible to that information that like I was experiencing. So I guess just focus on things that you have accessibility to, because we are like limited as undergraduates right now.
Yeah, that's very true. Wow, thank you so much, you guys. That was awesome. I would love to sit here for a couple more hours, but I'm sure you have other things to do in your life, and so do we. So for that, thank you to everyone who was presented today, and thank you so much for everyone who is in the crowd, and we'd love to continue to see you maybe next Night's Ride Showcase and Stylist Publishing.